Welcome back to our Cultivating Faith devotional series. Today we present to you Chapter 5 of our 8-part series. If you have missed an episode and would like to have access to it, feel free to email us at saskatchewan@foodgrainsbank.ca. Just so you know, we will be taking a break in July, but returning in the months of August through October to provide you with the remaining 3 devotionals in our series. I can imagine that many folks in Saskatchewan are thankful for the rain that has fallen in our region this month and hoping for more, given the heat coming our way. Yet my mind also goes to those around the world, especially many women and children, who work hard each day to gain access to the necessities like water that I often take for granted. This month in Canada, we celebrate National Indigenous Peoples Day, and so I want to also acknowledge all the ingenious and resourceful work, past and present, of Indigenous communities to provide food for their families on these lands called Saskatchewan. Their work began long ago, long before mechanized agriculture was part of the landscape. A former colleague of Rick's, Joe Monroe from Muscadet First Nation, has long been an advocate of local food security. Joe currently holds the position of Food Security Coordinator for Muscadet. Rick and I celebrate with Joe, along with his community, as they do good work to grow food on their land and help teach younger generations how to enjoy the fruits of this hard work. Last month, we talked about the patience of a farmer, referred to in James chapter 5. This month, we are talking about the hard work of a farmer, also mentioned in the Bible in 2 Timothy chapter 2. In this chapter, the Apostle Paul encourages his young apprentice Timothy to remain strong in the work he is doing for the faith. To do this, Paul invites Timothy to first reflect on certain qualities of both a soldier and an athlete. But then he also says that hard-working farmers should be the first to enjoy the fruit of their labor. I think we all know farming is hard work. Whether one is farming thousands of acres of land in Saskatchewan with GPS and auto steer, or another is a small-scale farmer working 1 acre with hand tools, good effort is needed for a farmer to have any hopes of enjoying and sharing the fruits of their labor. Last year, Canadian Food Grains Bank worked with a local film company in Kenya to produce a documentary called Common Strength, a video which highlights the stories of 2 farmers, one from Manitoba, who visited another in Kenya. What occurred in this documentary is that 2 women, despite their very different contexts, learned about the common strength they share as they farm their land and seek to provide for their families and communities. You can check it out on the Food Grains Bank YouTube channel if you haven't seen it yet. While I could tell many stories of hardworking farmers, once again I find myself unable to really talk personally about what this all entails. So, we've invited another Saskatchewan farm family with connections to the Food Grains Bank to talk about the hard work that goes into farming. Randy and Marian Osmus farm near Leader, Saskatchewan with their 2 sons. They also have been very involved in a community growing project in the area for many years, and Marian is on the Food Grains Bank board. I am thankful to Randy and Marian for their willingness to share their thoughts. You will first hear from Randy, who's going to talk about how farm work has changed here in Canada and what motivates him to keep working despite the struggles that even present-day farmers face. Marian will begin by sharing her joys, hopes, faith, and work ethic needed in farming, and also talk about their visits to learn more about the realities of small-scale farmers in Ethiopia with the Food Grains Bank. I do believe you will enjoy their thoughtful and sincere words.
When I think of hardworking farmers, my thoughts immediately turn to the generations before me who started this farm. My grandfather and my father worked much harder than I do and faced much more adversity and risk than I do today. When they were faced with losing a crop to insects, plant disease, or weeds, they had very limited options to combat these threats, and yet they persevered despite the hardships. Today in Canada, we enjoy access to all kinds of fertilizer products, the best crop protection products, and state-of-the-art equipment to apply these products safely, accurately, and comfortably. We also have the most vigorous plants made possible by modern plant breeding, soil nutrient and moisture monitoring in real time, and yet it seems that many times we still struggle to grow adequate crops to make the farm profitable and supply enough grain to feed the world population. When I sit back and ask myself why, my thoughts turn to Genesis 3:17-19, which explains God's curse on the earth that is the result of sin. These verses inspire me to continue to work hard, despite the disappointing results we often experience. God's promise in these verses is to provide food despite the fact that it will require hard work. I will close by quoting the first line of Genesis 3:19. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread.
One of the great joys I feel in farming would be the change I see in the crop after a refreshing rain. Everything is so much greener. The crop seems to grow several inches overnight. The birds seem to sing a little louder. Everything and everyone is praising God for His provision. There is so much hope in the rain. No matter how bleak things look, when the rain comes, it renews our hope. As I think about my brothers and sisters in Ethiopia, I see hope. Hope in the midst of severe struggles. In Canada, we have the privilege of being able to buy safety net programs that pay in the event of a crop failure. But in Ethiopia, they don't have that. The people have the faith and hope that God will provide for their needs. Now that is true faith and hope beyond the physical, hope beyond working hard to harvest a crop. Both Randy and myself were raised to work hard, and in turn, we have taught our boys to have good work ethics, willing to help out, and do your best job. No matter how hard we work, it is nothing compared to the labor we saw in Ethiopia, especially for the women and children. Physically, they labor much harder than we ever do. It is more like how our grandparents worked to break this land and turn it into farmland. And sadly, many times their land has not produced the fruits they had hoped for. Because of deforestation and excessive tilling, the land is left unprotected and barren. But thanks to training in conservation agriculture, the landscape and production of the land are changing. As trees are reintroduced and the land is covered with straw, soil health is returning and erosion is lessening, therefore conserving the much-needed moisture that they need to grow a crop.
It is good to listen to these words. They invigorate me to work hard in my own everyday tasks despite the challenges I face. It is also a bit humbling to realize how comfortable and secure of a life we can have here in Canada, and how much we need to learn about perseverance and faith from others. As I hear folks talking about farming, I have learned that even despite all their efforts, farmers cannot earn or guarantee a good crop. Yet I also know that without effort, a crop can't be cultivated. Equally, we know that if we do not put effort into faith, we likely will not be able to cultivate any fruits from our labor. Like farming, faith at times requires hard work. Life sometimes brings circumstances that make living by faith both needed and difficult. The question is, can we put enough effort into growing faith in hopes to benefit from the fruits of this labor, even in the midst of the struggles of life? It is true that by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread, and also true that without faith it is impossible to please God. I have just one question for you today. Can you think of an activity or action you believe God is asking of you that requires both hard work and faith? My suggestion is simple. Pray for God's grace to help you do this activity soon. So that is all for today. You will have to wait until August for Chapter 6, where we will focus on a plentiful harvest, just in time for the beginning of harvest here in Saskatchewan. I leave you with Philippians 2:12 from the New Living Translation. Work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear.